See children, this is the transverse section of ovary which is appearing on your screen. This transverse section is showing a lot many things inside. Ovary is slightly an ovoid structure, right? And we begin with this opening. If you can see, this is OL, that is ovarian ligament, right children? Before I start with this detailing here, always remember the way you have learned how to draw the LS of testis and then TS of testis. Similarly, you are going to learn this diagram too. These diagrams are important with respect to boards, right children? So the transverse section of ovary is equally important, and such structures come for straight away 3 to 5 marks, because you can see many labelings are there. So depending upon the labelings, you can take it as a heavy question. So how to draw it? Whatever is happening inside the ovary, you are again familiar with the content. So just start with the beginning. This is ovarian ligament. Means here the ovary is attached in the peritoneal cavity. And then you see the outer lining of the ovary, if you can see. This is germinal epithelium. Just see the labeling here. Germinal epithelium. Now epithelium just because it is the outer covering. But why germinal? Because germ cell is also known as gamete. Germ cells are also going to, basically they produce the future gametes. That's why any epithelial cell which is involved in production of germ cells is known as germinal epithelium. So here, if you can see, out of this germinal epithelium, few cells proliferate out. Now I have drawn very few here, but they are somewhere around 60,000 or more. Why it is so? Children, you need to remember this always, that a female, whatever follicles she has to develop during her reproductive period, that is in the right from the puberty age, that is the age of 12 or 13 till 45 to 50, that is the menopause condition. During this time, whatever eggs this female has to develop, the germ cell for this egg is automatically, altogether all the germ cells, they are proliferated out at the time of embryonic development of the female. When the girl is there inside the mother's womb, she is undergoing the embryonic development stage. At that moment only, all the cells which the girl is going to have as egg cells in her reproductive lifetime, at that time, all the egg cells, they just proliferate out together. And later on, after birth, there is no follicular proliferation occurring. Whatever has already come out in the form of this egg nest, you can see there are many there, and these all are immature, but they are queued up. At every monthly cycle, one follicle would go further and it will start developing. So the collection of all the primary follicles, you will call it egg nest. These are not primary, rather primordial follicle. You call it egg nest. Out of this nest, the first cell that participates in the development is known as a primary follicle. That's why I've used this symbol 1 raised to the degree. Primary follicle, slightly enlarged, you will start calling it secondary follicle. Secondary follicle has certain peculiar features, that it starts having a cavity inside. If you can see, there's a cavity inside. You call this cavity as antrum, right? The cell enlarges more. Now secondary follicle turns into Graafian follicle. Graafian follicle is also known as tertiary. That's why 3 is written here. Tertiary follicle. Graafian follicle name has come from the inventor of this structure, that is Sir D. Graaf, right? Graafian follicle is characterized by the ovum in the center and the cells surrounding. These are follicular cells, and the antrum, the cavity, is as such. Right children? So after the stage of Graafian follicle is achieved, there is the time for ovulation. that you have studied at the level of class 10th too, that this Graafian follicle coincides with the germinal epithelium. You have lot many hormones which participate here. So just for the rupturing of the ovarian wall, you use luteinizing hormone, children. This luteinizing hormone will bring about the rupture in the ovary wall and the ovum is released out, right? Whatever remnant is there, whatever remaining thing is there left behind, it turns into a young corpus luteum, and young corpus luteum further matures to a larger size corpus luteum. 2-3 things that you have to take care of. You have to keep in mind that the ovum which is released here, this ovum is known as secondary oocyte. Why we are calling it secondary oocyte and not the mature ovum? Because we know that gamete undergo meiotic division, and meiosis is always completed in 2 cycles, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. So what you have to understand is that at the time of ovulation, only meiosis 1 has occurred and the stage is withheld. Now meiosis 2 would be completed when there will be a sperm going to fuse with this oocyte. At that time, meiosis 2 quickly completes to make it a mature ovum. Right, children? So understand that the ovum at the time of ovulation is in the stage of secondary oocyte. Right? Graafian follicle is responsible for the hormone estrogen, right? And once the ovulation is done and the remnant is remaining, this is responsible for progesterone. This is a very big difference. First difference is that corpus luteum doesn't have an ovum in the center. Graafian follicle does have. Graafian follicle contains an antrum, whereas corpus luteum does not contain an antrum. Another thing is Graafian follicle secretes estrogen and corpus luteum secretes progesterone. But if this corpus luteum is not required by the body, because we know that progesterone is the pregnancy hormone, right, children? Pregnancy hormone means this high level of progesterone would always support the pregnancy in the body. But in case the female is not pregnant, at that time high level of progesterone is not needed. So in case of no fertilization in the body, no embryonic development in the body, this corpus luteum converts into a debris which is known as corpus albicans. And corpus albicans does not secrete anything. It is cleared up by the macrophages. Macrophages are those cells which eat up, digest up the wear and tear worn and torn cells of the body. Right, children? So again we are taking a recap. It's an ovoid structure ovary. The outer content is germinal epithelium, because it is going to give you future follicles. All of the follicles would be released at once. What will be the stage? The girl would be in her embryonic stage at the time the ovary, or embryonic, or you may say the fetal development stage. At the time ovary has all these eggs here, and they are queued up one by one. Each and every follicle would be joining their path of development, and whenever the cells are arranged in the form of a ring, you start calling them follicular cells. Right, children? The red thing that you can see here, there's a ground material. That's why I have shaded the whole ovary pink color, because this is the ground material. The liquid, the connective tissues, and the blood vessels, capillaries, everything is there. And the border portion of this ground tissue would be known as cortex, and the center portion would be known as stroma. And these red things are the blood vessels. Just now I have told you that ovary does contain the blood capillaries. Right, children? Just go through this diagram, practice the diagram well, copy it down very nicely in your notebook, and go through all the functions of each and every structure. And if you have any issues, we can discuss them. Just let me know. Alright, children, we will be proceeding further in the next video.